Professional rider mocked motherless teen, but in the final lap, he silenced them. Tyler Johnson held the reins of Mare Star with trembling hands as the sound of laughter echoed through Greenfield Racetrack in New York. The 17-year-old felt his face burn with shame when all eyes turned to him. Bradley Thompson, the most famous jockey in the country, had just shouted to the crowd that a poor orphan should never dream of competing with the best. The words cut like a knife, especially because Tyler had just signed up for the Grand Summer Classic, the most important race of the year. "Look at this," Bradley continued, still pointing at Tyler. "The boy who mucks stalls thinks he can compete with us. What a joke." The crowd laughed even louder. Tyler clutched the locket in his pocket, the only thing left from his mother, Sarah Johnson. She had passed when he was just 5, and since then he had lived in the city orphanage working at the racetrack on weekends to earn a few dollars. "Did you hear me, kid?" Bradley stepped closer, that mocking grin still on his face. "Quit while you're ahead. Save yourself the humiliation." Tyler swallowed hard but didn't look away. He had promised himself, standing at his mother's grave, that one day he would prove his worth on that track. Sarah had been a horse groomer at the same racetrack years ago, and he had grown up hearing stories about how she dreamed of seeing the horses she cared for win big races. "I'm not quitting," Tyler replied, his voice steadier than he expected. Bradley burst into laughter, clapping exaggeratedly. "Oh, how brave! And with what horse do you plan to compete, boy?" "This old mare?" Star was indeed an older mare, with a chestnut coat and tired eyes. She belonged to Mrs. Eleanor, a 72-year-old woman who could barely afford the stable fees. Tyler had cared for her for 3 years, ever since he arrived at the racetrack, and a special bond had formed between them. "Star was a champion once," Tyler said, stroking the mare's neck. 20 years ago," Bradley howled with laughter. "Kid, you're delusional. This mare can't even trot properly." The crowd began to disperse, losing interest in the argument. Some muttered about the boy's audacity, others shook their heads in pity. Tyler was left alone with Star, feeling the weight of their scornful stares. When he finally led the mare back to the stable, he found Mrs. Eleanor waiting for him. The old woman's face was red with anger, clutching the registration papers Tyler had secretly filled out. "Tyler, what is this madness?" she shouted, trembling with indignation. "How dare you enter my mare without my permission? Mrs. Eleanor, I can explain." "Explain what? That you want to make a fool of me? That you want the whole town laughing at us?" "Star is 22 years old, boy. She's old, she's tired." Tyler felt tears welling up but held them back. "Please, give me a chance. I know she still has strength. I can feel it." "Feel it?" Mrs. Eleanor slammed her fist against the stall door. "Feelings don't win races, Tyler. I'm canceling this entry right now." "No!" Tyler stepped between her and the exit. "Give me 3 weeks, just 3 weeks to prove I can do this." Mrs. Eleanor paused and studied him for a long moment. There was something in the boy's eyes that made her hesitate, the same determination she had seen in Sarah's eyes years ago when she worked there. "You knew my mother, didn't you?" Tyler asked softly. "She worked here before I was born." Mrs. Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "Sarah was a good woman, hard-working, honest. But that doesn't mean you inherited her talent. Give me a chance to find out." Mrs. Eleanor sighed heavily, as if the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. "All right, boy. But if you lose, and you will, you can never work with horses again. Star will be sold to pay the debts and you'll have to find another way to live. Understood?" Tyler nodded, knowing he was making a dangerous bet. But something inside him, a voice that seemed to echo from the past, told him it was the right thing to do. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The first day of training was a complete disaster. Tyler discovered Star had an old injury on her right hind hoof that everyone had ignored. The mare limped slightly, but enough to affect her speed and balance. "Dr. Williams, please," Tyler begged the racetrack veterinarian. "Can you treat Star?" Dr. Williams, a middle-aged man with thick glasses, didn't even look up from the papers on his desk. "Treatment for a chronic injury costs $1,000 up front, kid. Do you have that kind of money?" $1,000 was more than Tyler earned in 6 months working at the racetrack and doing odd jobs around town. He left the office with a heavy heart, but refused to give up. That night, Tyler remembered the stories old Bill, the former stableman at the racetrack, used to tell. He had learned old healing techniques for horses, methods used before modern medicine came to America. Tyler began applying warm water compresses to Star's hoof every morning and night. He massaged the area with circular motions he'd seen old Bill use years ago. It was slow, delicate work, but gradually he noticed improvement in how the mare moved. Meanwhile, Bradley Thompson trained with equipment imported from Europe. His horse, a purebred English thoroughbred named Golden Thunder, was worth over $100,000. Bradley had access to the best veterinarians, equine nutritionists, and trainers in the country. "Look at this, everyone," Bradley shouted to the other jockeys during morning practice. "The orphan still thinks he can compete. How touching." The taunts were constant, but Tyler learned to ignore them. He arrived at the racetrack at 5 in the morning, before anyone else, to train with Star in peace. It was the only time he could focus completely on the mare without being disturbed. By the second week, strange things started happening. Tyler would arrive in the morning to find Star's stall door open. The special feed he prepared for her would disappear overnight. The cleaning tools he used would mysteriously vanish. One night, Tyler decided to sleep in the stable to find out what was going on. Around 2 in the morning, he heard footsteps approaching. Hidden behind hay bales, he saw 2 men who worked for Bradley tampering with Star's stall. "Let's turn her loose in the pasture," one whispered. "See if she gets hurt running in the dark, even better." Tyler waited for them to leave, then checked on Star. Thankfully, the mare was fine, but the incident left him on edge. From that night on, he slept in the stable every night, which began to affect his daytime work. Tyler worked at the Greenfield Farmers Market during the week, carrying boxes and organizing products for Mr. George, the owner of a small grocery store. It was hard work, but the money helped cover his share at the city orphanage and buy extra feed for Star. "Tyler, you've been late every day," Mr. George complained on Monday of the 3rd week. "And when you do show up, you look like you haven't slept. What's going on?" "Sorry, Mr. George, I've been training for an important race." "A race? What race?" "The Grand Summer Classic. It's next Sunday." Mr. George let out a bitter laugh. "Kid, you're daydreaming. Horse racing is for rich folks. You should focus on the job that puts food on the table." When Tyler arrived late again on Tuesday, Mr. George made his decision. "I can't do this anymore, boy. You're fired. Pack your things." Losing the job was a hard blow. Tyler knew that without that income, he wouldn't last long at the city orphanage. But there were only 5 days left until the race, and he couldn't give up now. All this time, a young woman had been watching Tyler's training from afar. Emily Parker was the daughter of Richard Parker, the owner of Greenfield Racetrack, and she had always secretly loved horses. Her father, however, believed the world of racing was no place for women and forbade her from going near the animals. Emily was 25 and had studied veterinary medicine at Columbia University, but her father forced her to work only in the racetrack's administrative office. From her window, she watched how Tyler cared for Star with such tenderness and dedication, and it moved her deeply. One night, while Tyler slept in the stable, Emily quietly slipped into Star's stall. She had noticed the mare still limped slightly and wanted to help, even if anonymously. She left a bottle of veterinary anti-inflammatory by the stall door, along with some expensive nutritional supplements that would help Star regain her energy. No note, just the medicine. Tyler found the supplies the next morning and was puzzled. He knew it couldn't have been Mrs. Eleanor. She barely had money to pay the stable fees. It also couldn't have been any of the other grooms who clearly looked down on him. "Who do you think left this here, girl?" he asked Star, who merely shook her head as if she understood. Tyler decided not to question the gift and used the medicine as directed. Within 2 days, Star was moving much better, her limp almost unnoticeable. On the Thursday before the race, Bradley Thompson showed up at the stable with an unexpected offer. "Tyler, can we talk?" The boy was brushing Star and didn't even turn around. "What do you want, Bradley?" "Look, kid, maybe I've been a little hard on you. Maybe I took the jokes too far." Now Tyler turned suspicious. Bradley had never spoken to him normally before. "And?" "I came with an offer." Bradley pulled an envelope from his pocket. "There's $3,000 here. More money than you'll ever see in your life. All you have to do is drop out of the race." Tyler stared at the envelope, knowing that money would solve all his immediate problems. He could pay months of rent at the orphanage, buy new clothes, maybe even enroll in a trade school. "Why do you want me to quit so badly?" Bradley shrugged as if it were obvious. "Because you're going to embarrass yourself, kid, and I don't want people saying I humiliated a child in public." "I'm not a child." "Aren't you?" Bradley laughed. "You're 17, never raced professionally, and your mare is over 20. That's not brave, Tyler, that's stupid." Tyler put the brush down and stepped closer to Bradley. "Keep your money. I'm not quitting." The smile faded from Bradley's face, and for a moment his eyes showed something Tyler had never seen before: worry. "You don't get it, kid." Bradley's voice dropped, almost threatening. "I knew your mother years ago. Sarah was a talented woman, a dreamer. You know what happened to her?" Tyler felt his heart race. No one had ever spoken about his mother beyond vague comments about how hard-working she was. "What do you mean?" "She had big dreams too. She wanted to see the horses she cared for win important races. She worked day and night, saved every penny to have a chance at training a champion." Bradley paused, watching Tyler's reaction. "But when she finally got her chance, people like me put her in her place. She lost everything, kid. All her savings, all her dreams. She left here humiliated and defeated." Bradley's words hit Tyler like punches to the gut. His mother had never shared details about her past at the racetrack. "You're lying." "Am I?" Bradley smiled coldly. "Ask anyone who's worked here for over 20 years. Sarah Johnson bet everything on an impossible dream and lost. Don't make the same mistake she did." Bradley left the envelope on a bale of hay and walked away, leaving Tyler alone with his confused and painful thoughts. That night, Tyler couldn't sleep. Bradley's words echoed in his mind. Had his mother really suffered public humiliation right here, in the same place where he was now trying to chase his own dreams? On Friday morning, Mrs. Eleanor showed up at the stable earlier than usual. She wore a serious expression and held a yellowed envelope in her hands. "Tyler, we need to talk. If it's to convince me to give up, save the speech. I've already heard enough from Bradley yesterday." "It's not that, Mrs." Eleanor sat on a bench near Star's stall. "It's about your mother." Tyler stopped organizing the equipment and turned to her, his heart already beating faster. "What about her?" "Sarah was like a daughter to me. When she first came here, she was only 15, younger than you are now. She was an orphan too, from a city orphanage on the north side of New York." Mrs. Eleanor opened the envelope and pulled out some yellowed photographs. "She was incredibly talented with horses, had a natural intuition, a connection I've never seen in anyone else except you." In the photos, Tyler saw his mother as a young woman, smiling beside several horses. In one, she was holding a trophy, radiant with joy. Was she a jockey? Not officially. Back then, women couldn't compete professionally. But she trained in secret, dreaming of the day the rules would change. Mrs. Eleanor showed another photo, where Sarah stood beside a chestnut mare. This is Star 20 years ago. Sarah trained her from a foal. They were inseparable. Tyler looked at Star, who seemed to understand they were talking about her. The mare stepped closer and rested her head on his shoulder. "So Star was your mother's?" "Yes. When she left, she asked me to care for Star, as if she were my own. She said one day someone special might come along to finish what she couldn't." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. The tears Tyler had held back for so long finally began to stream down his face. He hugged Star, feeling an even deeper connection with the mare he'd cared for over the past 3 years. "But why didn't you ever tell me this before?" "Because I wanted to be sure. I needed to see if you had the same passion, the same determination. And you do, boy. You do." Mrs. Eleanor pulled another paper from the envelope, an old ownership certificate. Sarah registered Star in her name when she bought her from a breeder in Saratoga, spent all her savings, but she believed Star would be special. And was she? Star won 4 minor races before she turned 5. She had everything it took to be a champion, but then Mrs. Eleanor hesitated as if unsure whether to continue. Then what? Bradley Thompson appeared. He was younger back then, but already had a reputation for being underhanded. He couldn't stand that a poor woman had a better horse than his. What did he do? He spread rumors that Sarah was doping Star. He convinced the judges to impose stricter tests, expensive exams she couldn't afford. By the time she finally got the money, she'd already missed several race opportunities. Tyler felt anger rising inside him, a quiet fury he'd never experienced before. After that, other owners stopped accepting Star in races. Sarah couldn't get entries anymore, couldn't even find work. That's when she found out she was pregnant with you. And she gave up. She didn't give up, Tyler. She made a choice. She chose you. Mrs. Eleanor put away the photographs and stood up. That's why I agreed to let you try. Sarah always said she'd come back one day to finish what she started. Maybe she came back through you. That afternoon, Tyler trained with Star with renewed energy. Every gallop, every turn, every acceleration seemed to connect him not just to the mare, but to the memory of his mother. As he was finishing practice, he spotted a woman watching from the administrative building's window. For a moment, their eyes met, and she waved timidly before stepping away. Later, while cleaning the equipment, Tyler found another envelope near Star's stall. This time there was a note along with more supplements. Sarah would be proud of you. Keep believing. A friend. Tyler looked toward the administrative building, but the windows were dark. On Saturday, the day before the race, something happened that nearly made Tyler quit altogether. He arrived at Greenfield Racetrack at 5 in the morning as usual, but Star wasn't in her stall. Desperate, he ran through the entire stable, shouting the mare's name. Other grooms began arriving and helped with the search. No one had seen anything. No one knew anything. She can't have just disappeared, Tyler yelled, now panicked. Then he remembered a story Mrs. Eleanor had told him about Sarah. When she was stressed or anxious, she'd take Star to a small pasture behind the racetrack, a quiet place where they used to relax. Tyler sprinted toward the pasture, and as he rounded the last bend, he saw Star standing under a large tree, grazing calmly as if nothing had happened. "Star!" he called, running toward her. As he got closer, he noticed something different about the mare. She seemed calmer, more focused. It was as if she'd gone there to draw strength from the past, to connect with Sarah's memories. "You missed her too, huh?" Tyler whispered, stroking the mare's neck. "She's with us, isn't she? She's here, in this place." Star whinnied softly, as if agreeing. As they were heading back to the stable, Bradley appeared in their path. This time he wasn't smiling. "So you didn't quit?" "No." "Tyler, I'll be straight with you." Bradley stepped closer, speaking low. "I can't let you humiliate me tomorrow, understand? I'm not here to humiliate anyone, I'm just here to race. And what if you race too well? If by some miracle you end up in the top spots, you think I can let that happen?" There was something in Bradley's voice that made Tyler realize this wasn't just taunting anymore. It was a real threat. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying accidents happen in races, kid. Horses stumble, jockeys fall. It'd be a shame if something like that happened to you." Bradley walked away, leaving the words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. That night, Tyler barely slept. He knew Bradley was capable of making good on his threats, but he also knew he couldn't back down. Not now, when he was so close to honoring his mother's memory. On Sunday, the day of the Grand Summer Classic, Greenfield Racetrack was packed. It was the biggest event of the year, and people from all over the New York area had come to watch. Tyler arrived early, nervous but determined. Mrs. Eleanor was there to help him prepare Star, and for the first time in weeks, she seemed hopeful. "No matter what happens today, boy, you've already proven you're your mother's son." As he saddled Star, Tyler noticed movement in the administrative building. The young woman he'd seen watching his training was coming down the stairs, defying her father's clear orders to stay away from the racing area. Emily Parker wore a simple dress, but there was determination in her eyes. She had decided she couldn't stay hidden any longer, watching from afar. She wanted to show support for the young man who had earned her admiration these past weeks. "Excuse me," she said, approaching Tyler. "I'm Emily Parker." Tyler immediately recognized her as the woman from the window. "You're the one who's been leaving the medicine?" Emily nodded, slightly embarrassed. "I'm a veterinarian. I saw Star was struggling and wanted to help." "Why?" "Because you reminded me why I love horses. You care for Star with the same devotion I wish I could give to animals." Before Tyler could respond, shouts came from the stable entrance. Richard Parker, the racetrack owner, was yelling at his daughter. "Emily, get back to the office right now. You shouldn't be here." "Dad, I don't care what you wanted. Go now." Emily looked at Tyler sadly, but obeyed her father. Before leaving, she whispered, "Good luck, your mother would be proud." An hour before the race, Tyler received the worst possible news. The official in charge of the starting positions called him over to announce that Star had been placed in the outermost lane, position number 8. "This can't be right," Tyler protested. "We registered weeks ago." "Lanes are drawn at random, kid. There's nothing I can do." Tyler knew this wasn't luck. The outside lane was the worst possible position, especially for an older mare like Star. They'd have to cover much more ground than the other competitors. Bradley, of course, had gotten the inside lane, the most advantageous spot. With 30 minutes left before the race, Tyler was adjusting the last details of the saddle when he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Emily, who had returned against her father's orders. "I need to tell you something," she said, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "Bradley isn't just arrogant. He's dangerous." "What do you mean?" "He was my ex-fiancé. My father still wants me to marry him, but I found out things. Terrible things." Emily pulled an envelope from her pocket. "These are copies of documents I found in the office. Bradley's been bribing judges for years, fixing races, ruining anyone who threatens his position." Tyler opened the envelope and saw papers listing bribe amounts, secret deals, records of rigged races. "Including what he did to your mother. It's all documented here. Why are you showing me this? Because you can expose him. You can end this once and for all." Tyler looked at the papers, knowing this evidence could destroy Bradley completely, but something inside him rebelled against the idea. "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I don't want to win like this. I want to win on the track, fair and square. I want everyone to see he lost to someone better, not that he got caught cheating." Emily was surprised by his answer, but admiration shone in her eyes. "Are you sure?" "I am. But keep those papers. If he tries anything after the race, we can use them." Emily nodded and stored the documents. "Then good luck, and watch out for him during the race. Bradley is capable of anything to avoid losing." With 15 minutes left until the start, the horses and jockeys were called to the paddock, where the crowd could see them up close. Tyler rode Star for the first time in an official setting, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The contrast between him and the other competitors was striking. Bradley wore a flawless yellow and red uniform, sponsored by a major car company. His horse, Golden Thunder, gleamed under the sun, clearly in perfect physical condition. Tyler wore a borrowed, patched-up uniform that Mrs. Eleanor had gotten from a former jockey. Star, despite having improved greatly in recent weeks, still showed signs of her age. "Folks, look at this," Bradley shouted to the crowd as they passed through the paddock. "The orphan boy actually showed up, how brave!" The crowd laughed, but this time Tyler noticed not everyone was joining in. Some spectators seemed moved by the young man's determination, while others wore expressions of sympathy. "Go for it, kid," a man from the stands yelled. "Show them what you're made of." Other voices joined in support, and Tyler felt an unexpected wave of positive energy. When they reached the starting line, Tyler could see the full stretch of the 1,600-meter track ahead. It was an intimidating distance, especially from the most unfavorable position. "Last chance, kid," Bradley said, positioning Golden Thunder in the inside lane. "There's still time to back out and save your dignity." Tyler didn't respond. Instead, he stroked Star's neck and whispered, "It's time, girl. Let's show them who we are." The starter raised the red flag. The racetrack fell silent for a few seconds that felt like an eternity. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now, back to the story. The flag dropped and the gates opened simultaneously. 8 horses surged toward the first turn, the sound of their hooves echoing like thunder across the track. Tyler immediately felt the disadvantage of his position. While the horses in the inside lanes were already organizing themselves for the first turn, he and Star had to cover much more ground just to align with the others. Bradley took the lead from the start, as expected. Golden Thunder was truly an exceptional horse, and even Tyler had to admit that horse and rider made a formidable pair when they wanted to. By the first turn, Tyler was in last place, nearly 10 meters behind the second-to-last horse. The crowd roared, but he couldn't tell if it was encouragement or disappointment. "Come on, Star," he murmured, leaning over the mare. "I know you've got more to give." As if understanding, Star began to gradually pick up speed. It wasn't the explosive burst of younger horses, but a steady, determined acceleration. By the backstretch, they had already passed 2 competitors. Tyler's heart raced as he realized Star was truly finding her rhythm. But when he passed Bradley, the trouble began. The professional jockey made a subtle but deliberate move, pinning Tyler against the inside rail. It was a dangerous and unfair maneuver, done so discreetly that the judges would hardly notice. Tyler had to yank the reins sharply to avoid a collision, losing the momentum he'd built. "Careful there, kid," Bradley shouted with fake concern. "These tracks can be dangerous for beginners." The crowd in the stands began to grow restless. Many had noticed the unfair move, and shouts of protest echoed through the racetrack. "Foul! Foul!" some spectators yelled, but the judges, positioned at strategic points along the track, seemed to have seen nothing. Or maybe they didn't want to. Tyler quickly recovered and sped up again. He was back in last place, but Star seemed to have found a second wind. The mare now ran with a determination that surprised everyone. On the second turn, they passed the 7th place horse, then the 6th. The crowd began to realize something special was happening. The young orphan and his old mare were truly holding their own against some of the finest horses in the state. Bradley looked back and saw Tyler gaining on him again. His mocking expression had vanished, replaced by what looked like genuine concern. As they entered the final lap, Tyler was in 4th place. Star was breathing heavily, but her movements remained smooth and coordinated. It was as if 20 years of experience were shining through with every stride. "That's it, girl," Tyler shouted, feeling the crowd's energy fueling his own determination. "Now's our time." The final turn came faster than he expected. Tyler could see Bradley ahead, still in first, but no longer as far ahead as at the start of the race. Then, something extraordinary happened. Star found a reserve of energy that seemed impossible for a mare her age. It wasn't just physical speed. It was as if every race she hadn't been able to run in the past 20 years was pouring out of her now. Tyler felt the connection his mother had always described in her letters, when horse and rider become one. He wasn't just riding Star anymore, they were flying together. On the final stretch, with 400 yards to go, Tyler passed the 3rd place horse. The crowd was on its feet, roaring in frenzy. Even those who had bet against him were cheering now. With 200 yards left, he reached 2nd place. Bradley was just 2 lengths ahead, whipping Golden Thunder with a fury that bordered on desperation. "This can't be happening," Bradley shouted, more to himself than anyone else. With 100 yards to the finish line, Tyler and Star were neck and neck with Bradley and Golden Thunder. It was an unbelievable sight. The young orphan in his patched-up silks racing evenly against the most famous jockey in the country. The crowd was in utter delirium. Deafening cheers echoed through the racetrack. People wept with emotion, others filmed with shaking hands, overcome with excitement. Bradley made one last desperate attempt to cut Tyler off, but this time the move was so obvious even the most lenient judges couldn't ignore it. Instead of backing down, Tyler held his line, forcing Bradley to swerve to avoid a collision. In the last 50 yards, Golden Thunder, exhausted from mistreatment and excessive whipping, began to slow. He was a strong horse, but he'd been pushed beyond his limits. Star, on the other hand, seemed to draw strength from somewhere deep in her soul. Every stride was determined, every movement precise. This was the race of her life, and she knew it. In the final 10 yards, Tyler was half a length ahead, 5 yards and a full length. And then, amid the deafening roar of the crowd, they crossed the finish line. The racetrack erupted. Never in its history had it witnessed anything like this. The young orphan and the 22-year-old mare had won the Grand Summer Classic, defeating some of the finest horses and jockeys in the country. Tyler dismounted from Star with shaky legs, barely able to believe what had just happened. The mare was panting but clearly proud, neighing loudly as if announcing her victory to the world. Bradley crossed the finish line in second place, but got off Golden Thunder without acknowledging anyone. His face was red with anger and humiliation. He stared at Tyler for a long moment, as if wanting to say something, but just shook his head and walked away. The crowd began pouring down from the stands to surround Tyler and Star. People shouted congratulations, children asked for autographs, and photographers fought for the best angles. Mrs. Eleanor came running, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I knew it," she cried. "I always knew you could do it." Emily also appeared, once again defying her father's orders. She hugged Tyler without caring who saw. "You did it! You really did it!" Amid the celebration, Tyler touched his mother's locket in his pocket and looked up at the blue June sky. He could almost feel Sarah's presence at that moment, as if she were there, proud of her son and the mare she had loved so much. The race prize was $50,000, enough to ensure Star's care for the rest of her life, and still leave some for Tyler to invest in his future. But the real victory was priceless. He had proven that origins don't determine destiny. He had honored his mother's memory. And most importantly, he had shown that dreams can come true when nurtured with courage, determination, and love. In the weeks that followed, Tyler and Star's story spread across America. Sports newspapers wrote about the most thrilling victory in Greenfield Racetrack's history. TV shows invited Tyler to share his story, but the young man continued living at the city orphanage and caring for Star with the same dedication as always. The prize money was invested in stable improvements and funds to ensure other underprivileged youth could have opportunities in the racing world. Bradley Thompson was never the same after that defeat. His career continued, but his aura of invincibility had been shattered. Many young jockeys, inspired by Tyler's win, began challenging him with newfound courage. Emily Parker finally convinced her father to let her work as the racetrack's official veterinarian. She and Tyler developed a friendship that grew stronger each day, united by their shared love for horses and the mutual respect they had built. Mrs. Eleanor, now 72, decided it was time to make official what had always been true in practice. She transferred Star's ownership to Tyler, saying the mare had always been his by right, even before he was born. And Star, the mare everyone said was too old to compete, became a legend. Her victory in the Grand Summer Classic was remembered as one of the most thrilling moments in American racing history. 6 months after the race, Tyler was training with Star for a new competition when he noticed they weren't alone in the pasture. A group of children from the orphanage had come to watch, perhaps dreaming of following in his footsteps. "Uncle Tyler," said a little girl of about 8, "is it true that Star was a champion even though she was old?" Tyler smiled, stroking the neck of the mare who had changed his life. "It's true, but you know the secret?" "What?" "It's never too late to dream, and we're never too old, too young, or too poor to make our dreams come true. We just have to believe and work hard." The girl nodded solemnly, as if committing those words to memory forever. That evening, as the sun set over Greenfield Racetrack, Tyler mounted Star one more time. Not to train, not to compete, but simply to feel the evening breeze and remember all the people who had made that moment possible. Sarah, his mother, who had planted the seeds of dreams. Mrs. Eleanor, who had nurtured those dreams as if they were her own children. Emily, who had believed in him when few others did. And Star, the mare who had proven that age is just a number when you have the heart of a champion. Together, they galloped across the pasture as the first stars began to appear in the sky. It was a moment of peace after the storm, a moment of gratitude after victory. But Tyler knew this was only the beginning of his journey. There were other dreams to chase, other races to win, other people to inspire. And as long as Star had the strength to run, and as long as he had the courage to dream, they would keep proving that the impossible is just a word that frightens those who don't have enough faith to try. The end of the story. Tell us what you thought of this heartwarming story. Do you believe Tyler made the right choice by not using the evidence against Bradley? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.